Hello, hello. Hey, magic makers. It is Catherine. Welcome to this pretty quick, short talk today about the law of least action, what that means and how to use it, how to simplify your life by using it, and what the 80-20 rule is. So I love teaching about spiritual laws in such a way that they are tangible, they're hands-on, they're practical, they make sense in our everyday reality. A lot of people kind of dismiss the universal spiritual laws and don't want to work with them or know anything about them because they think they're too stoic, too esoteric, too hard to understand, too difficult to apply. A lot of people don't understand that these are the governing principles of the entire fabric of the cosmos, and you are part of that. So the same governing principles that are shaping the fabric of the cosmos above are the ones that are responsible for the shape that your life takes down here in the earthly realm. And whether you're conscious of this or not, whether you know how to work with spiritual laws or not, other people call them the immutable universal laws, but they really are spiritual laws as well as being universal laws. Whether you're conscious of working with them or not, or how to, these are at work, creating the structures through which you would recognize reality. So what's really pivotal in understanding how to apply these spiritual guidelines, these immutable or unchangeable universal laws to your everyday life, is that you're no longer in resistance to how the universe itself is functioning. You're no longer in resistance to or having any pushback against the flow of the actual cosmos. So if that doesn't hit you in the feels like, oh boy, that could simplify my life if I knew how to work with that. Yeah. So if you haven't guessed, to whittle it down to real bare bones, there's so many things to talk about when I talk about leading edge creator, but essentially in a nutshell, this is what leading edge creator is. It is learning how to work with, to know, first of all, what these spiritual laws are, how they function, what they do, how they create, shape, and form and design reality as we know it. And not only that, but how to take it in a real, tangible, hands-on, practical way and use it in your everyday life. Because otherwise, what good is it, right? Otherwise, yeah, naturally you would want to, push back against learning something like this because you'd realize, well, it doesn't have any use for me. And we tend to not really care too much about things that don't have any practical use for us, right? And I don't believe in teaching just about nebulous and esoteric spiritual concepts that don't have any grounding in our earthly experience, because, it's interesting to learn about that stuff. And believe me, I've been on this quest of learning esoteric knowledge since I was a very young person. And there's a lot of things that I know that I don't know how to apply yet in my life, things that I've kind of deepened into and learned and actually been taught or initiated into. Wisdom I've channeled that really doesn't have any meaning for me, but I just understand that at the end of that is a yet. It doesn't have any meaning for me yet. Just because I don't know how to apply it and use it doesn't mean that it doesn't have some practical or usable knowledge. And so I understand that things come to me exactly when I need them. Okay? So that includes any kind of knowledge or wisdom that's meant to be applied to my life, to better my experience, to create a more preferable reality. And not just for me, but for you too. So think of you being on this call today. And by the way, those of you who are here, I can't see everybody, but those of you who are here, thank you for being here. And take in this very true piece of information that you wouldn't be here if this information wasn't, if you weren't ready somehow to be presented with this information and to use it in your life right now. Trust that, there is a divine order, there is a divine timing. There are things that function in the universe that we can't quite understand, that have to do with things coming into our reality at exactly the time that we need them to. Embracing this truth has gotten rid of a lot of strife in my life. And knowing that if I'm facing a challenge or an issue or a problem, I know that the second I'm faced with that and come to this realization of, I don't like this. This is not cool. This is unwelcome contrast. I know that along with that, it's part of the package. It's part of the law of polarity, that to everything that exists, there is an equal and opposite energy. So I know that I'm faced with a problem. That means the solution's right there. And the whole reason I'm interfacing with this moment in time is to show me that if there is a problem, an issue, or a challenge, the breakthrough to gaining yet another elevation of consciousness, to move into a higher state of awareness, is in understanding that if there's a problem, the answer follows suit every time. That the solution is right there. And being in that solution-based awareness has brought me a lot of ease, a lot of simplicity. I would say that my life is fairly complex. Anyone else here a manifesting generator? Our gift in the garbage is that we are often given challenging situations so that, we can figure things out, try new things out. I'm very much an experimenter. I'm an innovator. I like to push the envelope. I like things outside of the box. I don't like convention. I don't like conformity. I just don't. I like to figure out new ways to do stuff. If I'm presented with something, I'm like, that's cool, but I know there's a better way, and I'm going to find it. And I become very kind of myopic sometimes about trying to find a better, more efficient, simplified way to do something. And coming to this knowledge and being in the space of being able to teach about these spiritual laws, taking something very esoteric and using it to actually create a connection in our bodies, where we're working with our own neuroplasticity, we're working with neuroscience, and taking these spiritual laws and making them applicable and tangible, it changes the neural pathways, it changes the networks in the brain. And when you do this in such a way that it's already harmonized and in a beautiful, synchrony with the way the universe itself is being manifested moment to moment, and everything is actually already created, spoiler, but our experience of things being new to us, like it's just being manifested, that is just proof positive that our consciousness is expanding. It's not the universe is expanding. It's that our consciousness is expanding to reveal more of the contents of it. Because that's how our consciousness works. Same, yeah. A couple of manifesting generators here. So, our struggle can often be that what works for everybody else doesn't really work for us. And, I've talked about this many times that, other people's programs or methods or processes that you might hear or even see marketing around, like this, follow these steps, follow this formula, and this will work for you too. And I can't tell you how many times that led to 2 years ago, almost to the day, led to such a profound, I was going to say preferred, not preferred, a profound spiritual rock bottom in my life. Because I was trying to throw spaghetti at the wall and do all the things and follow these processes and follow these programs. And I'm a Capricorn, so I like structure. And I like, okay, follow the steps. I'm not going to skip anything. I might here and there if I find a better way. But I tried so many things. I tried so many things to try to improve my life. And I realized that, okay, none of this stuff is working. And the more that I try to find a new thing or push or try to force this thing or try to make it happen, I'm just spiraling downward even more. And I was in a downward creative spiral. And those of you who have ever been in that place, you know how frustrating that is. You know how it is just like, oh my God, fuck my life, right? It can be incredibly disheartening. And it can be incredibly frustrating and overwhelming. And it makes you just kind of want to give up. And that's where I was 2 years ago. I was just like, I'm going to go work at McDonald's. At least I can get a steady paycheck. I'll work the fry later. I've worked at McDonald's before. It was my first job when I was 15. I know what that's like. I'll move up in management real quick. I was like, just fuck all this. And people, I've been teaching and mentoring, and I've been an energy healer, a hypnotherapist, a Reiki practitioner, master teacher, and I've been doing all of this for over 20 years now. Okay? And I was ready to just be like, bye-bye, adios, good riddance. I was done. And I got to a point where I just surrendered. I just surrendered, and I was like, okay, universe, fine. Whatever this is, whatever the frig is going on here, I give up. I'm raising the white flag. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is leading to some breakthrough. I don't know if I'm being shown something here, because I'm just not in a place where I can see it, because I'm in the overwhelm, and I'm in the frustration. I'm in a problem-based survival state mode of thinking, not a creative state, not a creative state. So I was like, I give up. Show me what you want to show me. I am an empty vessel. I'll just, whatever. Because I'm out of fucking ideas. And I have a lot of ideas. Okay. So, in that moment, when I just completely was in a free fall, I was just in a total free fall. I was like, I'm just going to jump. And maybe there's a net. I don't even know. I don't even trust there's a net at this point. But I'm just done. And that's exactly when I realized something, okay? In that moment of pure surrender, I was like, all these processes and methods and all these things that I've been trying, all this spaghetti that I've been throwing at the wall, trying to make my life better, feel, a different level of financial breakthrough, what, I wanted to experience as like, having my business grow and expand, all the things that I was trying to do, all the things, okay? And none of it was working. And I was like, all these processes, methods, formulas, systems, they're all made up. That's the thing, they're all made up. So, you sign up for somebody's program and they're like, I have this special, like I work with Akashic Records, but I do this. This is different. And that person made that up. Yeah, okay, it came to them through the 4D mental collective mind. That's true, because that's where we download ideas from. But, it's made up. As humans with free will, we can take this information and decide to do something with it, right? Okay. So, for a long time, I practiced the DNA restructure method, the DNA activation restructure method, which is an amazing method. Incredible mentor, Samantha Bearden, who created this, but she made that up. Yes, it came in through higher knowledge. Yes, she downloaded and channeled that wisdom. But what she did and created it in the world of form and gave it structure and form and a process, or it's more of a method, really. She made it up. It works great. I love it. I don't practice it anymore, but it was definitely something that was a huge part of my practice for a long time. Alicia Hartzell, another incredible person, incredible human. If you don't know who she is, Google her. Find her on Facebook. Sacred Soul Alignment. I'm a Sacred Soul Alignment practitioner. First and second level. I love her work. She just created sacred soul symbols. She made them up. Sacred soul symbols. Sacred soul alignment. Yes, it came through channeled information. Yes, she was a theta healer and practitioner for years, and this was something that was a natural, organic process of evolving that into her own kind of bespoke method. She made it up. Everything here is made up. When you were born, your mom and dad made up your name. So we have these things. We can't claim them as identity. Like, you have a name, you are not your name. You have a body, you are not your body. You have a method, you are not that method. You have a process that works for you, you are not that process. It's all made up. Are we starting to get it here? So everything here is created twice. Everything here is created twice. Once in the mind, and then once in the material, physical landscape and architecture of form. Does that make sense? Everything is created twice. Everything. Everything that you see in front of you. I'm in here in my office. I'm looking at my beautiful framed Art Nouveau pictures and a framed picture that Jimmy took of me that I love. It existed as an idea first. And then it became something that evolved into a structure. It moved into the manifest world of physicality, but it could never do that without first existing in the mind. Okay? So it's all made up. Are we on the same page with that? Is everyone in agreement? It's all made up. All of it. All of it. Even, someone's method, and God bless everyone. I am not throwing shade on everybody. There's an incredible amount of, healers and shamans and light workers and people who are teachers and mentors who are all doing different things that are, something that came through the genius of their own creative mind and elevated consciousness, so they could deliver a process or a method that hopefully is designed to assist in the highest good of others. And there's a plethora of stuff like that. I'm not throwing shade on any of it. I'm just saying I got to a point where none of it worked for me. None of it. And this is what helped me to realize that it's all made up. So what is giving the structure then? In other words, how is it that these things that can be made up, they must have rules or guidelines that allows them to be? What gives them the structure? What is like the raw scaffolding that allows something that exists in someone's mind to then take hold in the physical world of form and be a thing that we recognize as a thing, a process, a system, a method, a chair? Doesn't matter what it is, right? What is it? What's the raw materia? What is the mana of that? What has to be in agreement? Because there has to be a certain amount of congruence or coherence for something to take form in this physical world. There must be an agreement with the energy that one thing would follow another, okay? So that it can be something we recognize as real. And those things, those guidelines, are the universal principles of spiritual law. They're spiritual laws. So anything we recognize as having some structure, it's a flower, it's someone's method, it's DNA activation and restructuring, it's a mirror, it's a door, it's a house that someone built, it's this pen, it's this invitation, okay? The guiding principles, so the base, the foundation, the thing that is the fundamental thing that must exist in order for something to have structure or form so we can recognize it as reality, are spiritual laws. So what if you're working to make up whatever you want to make up? If you are like me and you recognize, like I did in that moment of profound spiritual rock bottom, that no one else's method is going to work for me, but instead, if I am working with the universal laws themselves, learning how they work, learning how one lends to the other, and not treating it like the law of attraction. I'm not talking about just the law of attraction here, because that's actually a secondary law. And you wouldn't be able to have that without the law of cause and effect. You wouldn't be able to have it without the law of one. You wouldn't be able to have it without the law of vibration. So in essence, what a lot of people are teaching is actually the law of vibration, not the law of attraction, because the law of attraction is a secondary law, and it's one of the most misunderstood laws. And a lot of people, when they teach manifesting, they're only teaching law of attraction, which is essentially, in a lot of ways, just law of vibration, but treating it as if it exists in a vacuum. But here's the thing about the spiritual laws. They all overlap and blend into each other. They work as a cohesive, congruent unit as a whole. None of them, not one of them exists in a vacuum. So if you're teaching about spiritual laws, you can't just teach about the law of cause and effect and have a program or a course or something that changes people's lives just teaching about the law of cause and effect if you're not also teaching about the law of polarity, if you're not also teaching about the law of vibration, if you're not also teaching about the law of gender principle, okay? But working with these laws and understanding them, yes, you have to look at them individually, but then you have to draw out that perspective and look at them and how they exist and overlap and feed into the energy of all the laws. Otherwise, you're not really working with the universal laws in their highest integrity. Like there's a serious element of authenticity and integrity missing there. If you're teaching about any singular law and not also understanding the breadth and the scope and the depth of how they all interact with each other. Does that make sense? So that being said, I want to talk about the law of least action today, but I wanted to give you that kind of premise, that foundational principle, and say this, that what I realized is that anything that was going to work for me in terms of a process or my own method that was going to take me to the level where I wanted to go in with my life, with my business, with helping my clients, because I'm always trying to better myself as a person, but I'm always trying to better what I do as a practitioner, as a teacher and a mentor. That's very important to me. I constantly even if I teach a program once and decide to teach it over again, it's going to be different every time I teach it because I always find ways to do it better. I always find ways to build it out. I always find ways to how do I make this something that lands with people even better than it did before? How do I concretize this so it feels more solid and cohesive? Right? I'm always stretching myself for that. And in understanding that, I realize I have to do something that I create by myself, and for my clients. And I can teach from that way, but I'm not teaching people when I teach a class or I mentor a group program like Leading Edge Creator. I'm not teaching you any method or process. I'm not asking you to follow the dictates of a certain system or formula. Because quite honestly, I think in this accelerated timeline, that's just not going to work for a lot of people anymore. And for those of us who identify as being visionary innovators, maverick creators, mystic rebels, it's just, that's not going to work for us. And as great as it may be, again, I'm not throwing shade. There's amazing programs out there. Many I've used myself and to a degree of success, but they just don't work for me anymore. I don't know if I've evolved beyond it, or if I'm just at a point where I have to work on something and create something that is bespoke to me. And that's what I teach and share in Leading Edge Creator is how do you work with these universal laws and principles to create something that is a bespoke reality that is unique to your own energetic signature. You're not adopting something else. You're not working with the template of something else and dragging it, doing a drag and drop from over there and into your life. Because frankly, for a lot of us, it's just not going to work anymore. Who feels that? Is there anyone here besides me that is just and you've tried many methods and you work with other people's templates or processes or formulas or steps and you're just And again, great stuff that these people are doing. I'm not shitting or throwing shade, but it is just about it feels old hat. For a lot of us, it just falls flat for us. It just does. As great as it might be. And some of us might have glimmers of success with these other things, but only in the sense that it kind of sparks a level of inspiration and creation within us so that we're oh, you know why this works for me? Because it's leading me to this other kind of murky territory over here. I can't define it yet, articulate it, or put my finger on it, but there's something there. So that glimmer of inspiration, when working with someone else's process and that part does work for us, that's the secret sauce because it's actually leading us to something that's ooh, how would I make this better? How would I do this for me and kind of make it work in my own way? And so that's when we find ourselves kind of skipping the steps of what someone else is showing us and kind of accelerating something or evolving it forward so that it jibes with our own unique energetic signature. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's all that fucking counts, right? Something that works for us. And, a lot of times when I hear this process works for everybody, it just falls on deaf ears for me because I'm just maybe, but probably not. Because at this point I've learned my lesson. And so what I started building up from 2 years ago is, really taking the time and going deep into and working with my spirit team. I work with an incredible spirit team. I call them the Sisterhood of the Celestial Fire. And it is Sophia, Goddess Sophia, as divine feminine embodiment Sophia, Kuan Yin, Sekhmet, Hathor and Isis, and it is a very powerful spirit team. I also work with Merlin, who's a stoic, and there's a big part of my energy that has the stoic in me. I have some, I work with Thoth, who's also a stoic and a scribe, which makes perfect sense because a lot of the things that I download, because I'm a conscious channel, I'm able to transcribe them, and that's exactly what Thoth did. So he's a very powerful mentor who helps me to integrate things that seem very, very nebulous a lot of times, and I can bring it down and kind of encapsulate it and make it translatable and teachable. Because otherwise I wouldn't be a very good teacher if I couldn't do that, right? So I enlisted the help of all of my spirit team, and once I got to this level of surrender, like all the help, all the support, everything I needed, just kind of the floodgates were open. And so over 2 years, I've basically spent the time cultivating, crafting, designing, and building up this program to be able to talk about spiritual laws in very, very hands-on, practical ways. So it's like merging esoteric wisdom with neuroplasticity. Because in bringing the spiritual laws in and integrating them and processing them in a very grounded, earthly way, it changes our neural network. And it brings in simplification. So that's the one way I want to talk about the law of least action, is understanding that when you are working with this raw material, the materia of the spiritual laws, you're working with the foundational, fundamental structure, building blocks of the universe itself, the things that give shape and form to what we know of or can see, have any kind of tangible relationship with in terms of the cosmos, above, out there, but also down here. It's the same set of laws and principles. And again, those of you who are tuning in late, it doesn't matter whether you're conscious of these laws or not. They're working. Whether you're working with them consciously or not, they are at work. They are happening. It is a fact, okay? And so if a lot more people knew how to work with these and didn't look at, spiritual laws and say, oh, boring. I'll tell you what, they're not boring at all. They are not boring at all. And certainly, have we met? The way I teach is not boring. The way I teach, even though I'm taking some esoteric concepts a lot of the time, I make it fun. I give, real world examples that make sense to you in your life, where you are. So this shit can land with you where you are. Otherwise, this stuff is just academic, right? And that's where it's boring. If it doesn't have some application or you can't recognize how they work in your own life, you're going to discard this just like maybe a lot of other things. But I want you to understand something very, very, very simple yet very profound. That part of working with the law of least action is an understanding these principles and how important they are as things that shape the fabric of the cosmos, and they are shaping your life. So when you know how they work together, how they have congruence working together as a whole, not existing as a vacuum like we're just teaching about the law of attraction here. That is out of spiritual integrity. It's spiritually immature. Sorry, I'm just going to say it. And it leaves out an understanding, is woefully misunderstanding how the rest of the spiritual laws work in conjunction with that one law. You have to know that. And so what I teach is a very holistic approach in that. But with the law of least action, that's the first way we work with it. The law of least action is everything in nature seeks the simplest route. Nature is extremely efficient. It is always looking for the simplest, quickest route from A to B. So in terms of creation or the manifest world, it is the law of least action is about the minimum energy to take you from here to there. That's what the law of least action is all about. Nature works this way. Why would your life be any different? Your life is part of nature. It might feel unnatural to you sometimes, but that life is life, okay? There's only life. And you have no perspective of nature outside of this life that you're living. And what is this vessel that's allowing you to experience this holographic projection of life? It's this body. It's conducting the symphony of your life. It's the magnetic attractor of everything in your life. So when you simplify your experience of yourself, you can start working with this premise. So simplifying yourself, and you're like, well, that's a tall order. Not really. It's that we love complexity. My God, do we love complexity? Humans are incredibly creative. You know why? Because we love to complicate the shit out of things. Like we can take something that's really, really, simple and easy to understand, and we're just like, yeah, but what? And then what if? And then da-da-da. And next thing you know, it's like these 20 things that we've just created in our own mind as something that's on top of this other stuff or peripheral to it or ancillary to it. God, it's difficult. No, it's not. You made it fucking difficult. Okay, so would you agree? I'm getting some hearts here. Obviously, you're feeling the emphasis on this. We make things difficult. We make things complicated. We are excellent at doing that. We are excellent convoluters of energy. Okay? So it really is about simplifying your life. And the easiest way to start doing that right now is, well, take an inventory of everything that happened this year. Take an inventory of what went right this year and what went wrong. Just leave it at that. What went right? So the things that you would recognize as like, that was good. That was delicious. That was a great moment. This was the energy I wanted to feel. This is the energy I want to keep feeling. So those are things you recognize or take inventory of, take an assessment of, and say, yes, those things are good. All right. The things that didn't go so great. Maybe you had a huge tax bill come in the mail like I did, or maybe you had an uncomfortable altercation. Maybe you went through a breakup. Maybe you had a divorce. Maybe, someone close to you is no longer here on this earthly plane anymore. You could recognize those things just for what they are. You don't have to place too much of a greater value or judgment on it. You can just say, I preferred this experience and I didn't prefer those experiences. Like, just simplify it. You don't need to vote on it, give a whole bunch of reasons around it. Just, I liked this, I didn't like that. Okay, taking a simple inventory. And when you look at the things that you didn't like, you can say, okay, well, what was going on? What was I thinking about? What was I trying to do in my life at that time? How was I feeling about myself at the time? Was I loving myself unconditionally? Was I doing maybe, drinking a little too much, slacking off? Maybe I had a great exercise program that I was doing and I just stopped doing it. What was going on? Why did that happen? Again, you don't have to place a bunch of value on it or judgment on it. It's not an excuse for you to go down the rabbit hole, of self-discounting. It's more about just doing an assessment. Okay? Be as impartial as you can. And then say, okay, well, I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to feel that way about myself anymore. Maybe there was a lot of doubt at that time. Great. I don't want to feel doubt anymore. I manifest this parking ticket or this huge tax bill or whatever. I was feeling a lot of lack at that time. I don't want to feel that anymore either. I really don't. I don't want to be in lack or impoverishment consciousness. And I don't want to have this poverty mindset all the time. Like, I'm done with that. I'm done with doubting myself. Actually, when I look at the things that were wins this year, it kind of negates those moments where I did feel the doubt. Yeah, now that I remember it, this thing worked out, so did that thing, so did that thing. And I actually pushed myself a little bit, got out of my comfort zone, promised myself I was going to have some growth in this area, and I did. Oh, wow, I forgot about that. Because that's what we do. We have a negative cognitive bias. This is just built into our survival mechanism. It's part of the package. And so what we do when we have this negative cognitive bias is we're cueing this system within us. It's called a reticular activating system. It's a function of the subconscious. And so what it does is it filters out millions of bits of data in any given minute of our experience of being exposed to a stream of endless information. And information in terms of, not like information like radio waves and microwaves transmitting information, but I'm talking about information like everything that's available in the field of all potential, everything that's part of the field of infinite mind. It's all there in front of us all the time. But we'd be very overwhelmed if we were seeing it all the time, okay? So what the reticular activating system does, it's actually it's in their brain stem, it's the most primordial part of the brain, but it's actually incredibly sophisticated because it filters out all these millions of bits of information, all this data, to just give us the 7 or 8 bits that are relevant to where our attention is focused, okay? Starting to see where this is going? So if our attention is focused on the negative all the time, guess what the RAS is at work filtering more into your information. It's filtering out, funneling through all that information and saying, oh, this is the stuff you're focused on and attentive to, so here's more of it. Here's what you're looking for, okay? That doesn't mean that all this great stuff isn't happening. It is. There's a lot of great shit happening. You know, I use a very real world example in the sense that, like, if you're someone that watches a lot of news, are you seeing good news when you watch the news? No. Because largely the function of the news is to keep us in this kind of low-grade anxiety and perpetual, like, free fall of a survival state where we tend to do what they tell us to do when the commercial comes on during the news break, right? So when we're focused on the negative all the time, we watch the news, what you don't realize is that, you know, somewhere in Bali, in Indonesia, someone is involved in incredible ocean cleanup. And that there's young surfers who are innovating these incredible ways of filtering all the plastic mess that's forming these plastic islands in the ocean and filtering that and clearing that up. But you're not going to see that on the news. Not unless you go looking for it. Okay? Yeah, there's death and mayhem and there's war and a lot of fucked up shit happening. But you know what else is happening right now? Someone is, you know, saving hundreds of puppies from a puppy mill that have been neglected. And all of these poor doggies are born with diseases and skin problems. And because they've been overbred, have all of these bodily dysfunctions and whatever. And there's someone, a team of people at work on the ground somewhere saving a bunch of those puppies right now. And doing incredible work. And they're doing it for free because they volunteer, because they love to do that work and they give a fuck. But you're not going to see that on the news either. Are you getting my point here? You have to go looking for it. The same is true in your own life, because that negative cognitive bias is just a fact. It's a functioning part of your survival mechanism. And it is set as your default. So you don't have to program yourself for this. But you do have to program yourself and program the RAS, reticular activating system, do something else, which is, it's fully programmable. Fully programmable. And that is to look for the things that are good. And how do you do that? How do you program it? You cultivate an awareness, an attention of the things that are good. This is why I'm always saying to my clients, like, be a collector of wins. Be a collector of wins. And do not, please, go into this space of needing to assess, well, that was a small win and that was a big win. The universe doesn't do that. The universe does not quantify your wins. You do that. Oh, this was only a small win. So what do you say when that happens? Well, I'm not going to celebrate it. I'm not going to celebrate it until I get to this spot. How many times have you done that? Where you've set up a goal for yourself and you see the goal existing in stages. And you're like, this will need to happen, A, B, C, D, before I get to F. And when I get to F, then I'll celebrate. Why? Who told you to do that? Where did you learn that? Those of us who are maybe good at delayed gratification, you know, we can learn sometimes, you know, as kids, we can learn it in a not so positive way. The delayed gratification is where it's at. But here's what you're missing out on. And here's where you're sending a mixed signal and a broadcast to the universe. If you're not celebrating every win, great or small, whatever value judgment you are slapping on it, understand the universe does not do that at all. A win is a win. Celebrate it. I went a whole day without eating sugar. Congratulations. You did it, sister. Well done. Round of applause. Hands up in the air. Raise the fucking roof. You did it. And if you are not embracing this kind of celebration for things in your life, not only are you not working with the law of least action, because with the law of least action, it's also about where is your attention going? It's attention minus effort. And think about it this way. The law of least action, really, in a nutshell, is attention minus effort. If your attention is going on your wins, you're not quantifying them. Remember, don't do that. You don't need to do that because the universe doesn't do that. You do that. Oh, it's just a small win. I lost 2 pounds, but I'm only going to celebrate when I lose 10. Fuck that. Celebrate now. I'm sorry. I'm spicy today, so I'm swearing a lot. Right? Like, who told you needed to wait to celebrate something? Who told you? Or made you feel like there was some sort of altruism or something righteous and about waiting to celebrate yourself? It's got to be unconditional. Do you get that? It's got to be unconditional. If your goal, your end result, the wish fulfilled of what it is that you want means that you're living in a place where you're happy and playful and celebrating and at cause with your own joy, no matter what is going on in your life, that's not something that's held off at some future date. If you want to work with the law of least action, your attention has to be on that now. And if it ain't there, create it. I am really fired up today. But that's how passionate I am about this work. And so, yeah, I'm teaching about a spiritual law here. Is this boring? Are you guys bored? Imagine if we go through all the spiritual laws and you're learning it in this way, where you feel fired up about it, okay? Because, hello, yeah, have we met? This is how I teach. I'm very inspired. It is the effortless way. You want to simplify your life? Be a collector of wins. You want to work with the law of least action? Celebrate your wins and stop quantifying them. They are not big wins. They are not small wins. They are wins, period, full stop, the end. Celebrate them. I love it. Okay, does that make sense? So it's really an understanding that when you're working with all these spiritual laws, there's a fundamental underlay to all of this, and that is that creation is finished. It's all manifested. It's all already done. And you could think of it as what you want to access. You're not creating it so much. As you're working with the spiritual laws in a level of congruence, meaning there's nothing passive about it, like you are working in collaboration with the spiritual laws. You are working in harmony with them. You have a congruence with them. You have a coherent vibrational understanding of how they work and how they're applied. That's also part of the law of least action, as I said in the outset. But when you are working with this foundational premise that creation is all finished, it's done. So if anything, what you're doing through your vibration, this congruence that you're establishing with working with spiritual laws, is you keep opening up greater and greater contents of your own consciousness, where these things that all already exist, you're finally able to see them. And so it's never about, what we've been taught that it's about, that you got to work hard, you got to hustle, you got to make shit happen, you got to force. No. Remember, law of least action is attention minus effort. And effort, in the sense of putting the focus on your attention, this is where we start to get into the 80-20 rule. Okay, and the 80-20 rule is basically that 80% of your energy is focused on, where's my attention? Where's my attention right now? What am I thinking about? Are my thoughts turning to shit in my own brain, or are they kind to me? Are they kind to the life I want to create for myself? Is that happening now? Where's my attention going? What am I fueling or funding with my energy in this particular moment? Is it kind to me, or is it unkind to me? Okay, let's simplify that right there, because it's pretty black and white when we get down to it, okay? Am I having thoughts about myself that are unconditional? Can I be proud of myself and love myself and see a win for a win without needing to quantify it, without my old self that was based on a foundation or a template of lack? Can I disregard any of those comments that are really just echoes, thoughts in my head that I'm attracting as part of a loop of consciousness? I'm not thinking them anew. They're just me dragging my old self into this present day. And we all do it. We're all guilty of it. We wake up in the morning and we're like, oh shit, I forgot to do that thing yesterday. I'm such a jerk. How many times have you woken up that way? I've woken up that way many, many times. And you know what? There isn't a worse way to start your day. We drag our past self into our present every day. We don't have to, but we do it out of habit. The thoughts that we have in our head on repeat about how disappointed we are in ourselves, or how disappointed we are in the world or other people, or blah, 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 blah. You're dragging that in. You're doing a boop, drag and drop. Yesterday is today. No, it's not. Who says? You go to sleep at night, your subconscious is working through processing and integrating your day. It does that for you. It does that for you. When you wake up to a fresh day, it's kind of like Groundhog Day in the sense that, but Groundhog Day in reverse. Like anything could happen that day. Anything could happen that day. But what kind of energy are you giving to that moment right when you wake up, right when you're lucid and awake and aware that like, okay, I'm in my body, I have stuff to do today. What kind of feeling are you starting your day with? Where is your attention going to? Like first thing, where is it just automatic? Is it kind to you or is it unkind to you? Okay? Look at every day as a fresh template, a clean slate, a fresh start, because it is. And who says you have to drag yesterday's version of you into today? You are not obligated to be the same person now as you were 10 minutes ago. And it doesn't have to be some big, elusive quantum leap. Those of you who know I talk about quantum leaps, I'm not a fan of people who teach quantum leaps. I think it's highly spiritually immature. It's another really misunderstood concept. Quantum refers to something that is incremental. Quantum movement is incremental. And it involves the whole. It doesn't involve something that exists in a vacuum, because for something to exist in the quantum, that means there's superposition. That means that everything is relating to everything else. Okay? So quantum leaps, more of a marketing buzz than anything else. Don't get me started on the whole quantum leaps. I don't want to talk about that because I'll spin out real quick and I'll get I'll get really even more spicy if that's possible. Worry about how am I progressing moment to moment? How is one beautiful moment just kind of leading into the next? How am I led into each new moment by the feeling of where I want to be? Moment to moment, second to second, because this is telling you everything about where your attention is. And if your attention can be on, I'm just assuming moment to moment that I'm already this person I want to be, that I'm already proud of myself, I'm already unconditionally loving to myself, I'm already brilliant, I'm already working with my genius creative mind, I'm already feeling happy, I'm already feeling expansive, I'm already feeling wise and resourceful as fuck. The law of least action is attention minus effort. If your attention is on all those things as if they're happening right now and you are assuming, you are working with the law of assumption, in other words, that what you want already exists. And not only that, like moment to moment, as I'm expanding my abundance and felt sense of prosperity more and more and more, I'm actually opening up the contents of my own consciousness, where this level of me already exists because creation is finished. It's already created. If anything, you're accessing more and more of that timeline, where that highest version of you that you're asking to become is already fully fleshed out, fully expressed, where you're already exploring that version of you. It's there, it's now, because everything is now. Okay? I'll get even more spicy if that's even possible, right? So is this landing? Is this landing with you? So the 80-20 rule is really about the most important thing should be on not the doing in terms of trying to force or manipulate or push outcomes and try to manipulate external circumstances. And that's how most of us try to manufacture our manifestation experience. And you can do it that way. It takes a really long time. And that road is littered with a lot of different frustrations and opportunities for overwhelm. And I'm saying that from full experience. Someone who is retired from hustle culture, okay? I live in the less is more paradigm. Look at me. I haven't showered. I put on a hat. I don't have any makeup on. But I'm here in my fullness. I might not be a pretty package, but I don't give a fuck. It's not about that. It's about like, how can I deliver something profound? How can I take what I know and get someone to a place today where they can be like, oh my God. Like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. Like, she's right. And it's like, I knew that, but I didn't know how to say it, or I couldn't put my finger on it. I can't tell you how many times my clients tell me that. Like, I knew that. I'm like, of course you knew it. We all know this stuff. I'm not teaching you anything you don't already know. I'm taking you through a process of stretching your consciousness so that you can reveal more of the contents of your own inner awareness. It's not that you don't know this stuff. You're remembering it. Right? Yeah. So my job is also my vocation. It is my mission. It is my purpose. It is my passion. I don't know how to do anything else at this point. Like, yeah, I joke about like, yeah, I'm going to go work at McDonald's. And when I was in that place 2 years ago, spiritual rock bottom, I joked about that. I would never fucking do it. I would be useless. I can't have anyone else tell me what to do at this point. Just ask my husband. I have to call the shots, and I have to do things my own way. I have to go through trial and error. And those of you who are manifesting generators like myself, you know what that can be like. It can be really frustrating. It can feel like, oh God, you know, I keep trying all these things. But there's also something in us that it's tenacious as all get out. Like, I don't care how many times I try to rework something, I'll just keep doing it. I don't tend to give up. Yeah, it's a Capricorn thing too. I tend to not give up. And I have a Pisces moon, so I'm very emotional. I'm very emotional. Like, when I teach, I have a lot of passion. I might be teaching about stuff that's kind of, you know, like a little stoic, maybe a little esoteric, but I have a lot of feeling. And why? Because, did I mention this is my mission, my passion? Because I want you guys to feel the way this feels for me. And I want you to know that it can be easy. And I want you to know that whatever you're thinking about is your highest, most preferred, desired reality, that it is not off limits to you. There is no one sitting on a throne in the sky throwing down edicts saying, Lori shall have an in-ground pool, but she shall not have the life of her dreams and feel really good about herself. There is no one setting those fucking standards. There is no secondary cause. There is nothing outside of you. Giving permission, throwing down edicts, creating limitations, and experience. There are no secondary causes. You are the primary cause, in other words, of everything you want to create. And in that sense, nothing is off limits to you. I've created some pretty amazing things this year. And here's how I'll prove this. I moved into a different income bracket this year. Is it because politics changed? Is it because the finances and the stock market changed? Is it because, you know, suddenly there was world peace? No. I changed. And I'm continuing to. I'm finding ways to do myself better, just like I try to find ways to do everything in my life better. I'm finding ways to do myself better. And through that, and through this kind of exploration of my own resourcefulness, which is also available to you, all of you, every single one of you, you're going to find ways. If you can do yourself better, you can do life better. Because everything in life is an extension of who you be. Yes? And here's the thing. It's going to take some persistence. Because that old version of you is stubborn as fuck. And I'm speaking from experience. I can't tell you how many times, like, I've known and continue to know that things are better for me. This is better for me. This is a better way to be. This is what I'm asking for. But the old version of me just keeps dragging my feet. And so I have to really put myself to task. I have to be a very stern taskmaster with myself. And that takes some persistence. You know, when you keep trying things over and over again, you try it this way one day and you're like, well, I'll tweak this one thing and I'll do it this way another day. And it can take a long time to do things that way. But if you're a natural innovator, that's what you do. You just do that. That's just how you operate. You have to do the trial and error route. You have to test things out. You have to be willing to walk the road that no one's going to walk. You have to be willing to go first. And I've always been that way. I've always been willing to do that. It takes some time and it's frustrating. But you know what also comes with that? With that frustration, there's always a polar opposite, right? The law of polarity dictates that is so. To every energy, there is an equal and opposite energy. And the opposite of frustration is persistence. Like you keep going. And I'm so committed to what I do and so purposeful and passionate in what I do. I keep going. You can too. But you're going to have to put some skin in the game. So that means that you've got to make what it is that you're desiring so big. This is the key part of working with law of least action. If you're aware of, I'm here, are you aware of where there is? And it's not really a destination, but in terms of our constructs of our linear minds, we think of it that way, right? I'm here, but I want to be there. If you don't have crystal clarity on where there is and what that represents to you and what that feels like, good luck, because none of this stuff is going to work. And that's where the real persistence comes in. And that's where you have to get really honest with yourself and say, no, this is what I really want. This is what I really want. And you have to get to this place where you understand that nothing is off limits to you. Because if you do think that things are off limits to you, here's what you're going to do with your desire. You're going to dumb it down. You're going to dilute it. And here's the real pitfall with this. If you try to dumb down your desires, you're working with someone else's desire. You're not working with your own. You saw someone else have it. You saw someone else get it. And you're like, I could do that too. It's the same thing as like trying to make someone else's process or formula work. If you're just not designed for that, you're not, your personal energetic signature is not designed for that. It won't jibe with that. It won't work. And so what you'll do artfully, creatively, find ways to procrastinate on it. You'll say, yeah, I'll work on that today, but then you don't do shit with it. Because if it's not real and authentic and genuine to you and speaks to you and lights you the fuck up, you're not going to do anything with that desire. You have no skin in the game. Because why? Because you think you can do it. And you're like, what? Yeah. That's exactly why. You'll have no skin in the game. It's why you'll have countless ways to procrastinate. It's why you'll constantly talk yourself down from it and say, you know what? I'm fine. I don't really need that. It's because the desire that you have for yourself, you think you can do it. Because you may have had some variation of that success before. So you already know you can do it. Or you've seen someone else who's close to you, someone you identify with is like, I'm kind of like this person, whatever. We have similar experiences. They did it. So it's boring. When's the last time you were lit the fuck up from within if something feels old hat or boring to you? Those energies don't line up. So when you're working with your true, authentic desire, something that speaks to your own, comes from your own energetic signature, because if that desire is so big, it does all the talking. It speaks to you, in other words. It tells you, do that thing. Talk to that person. Take that program. Okay? It's got to be big. It's got to feel like, whoo, oh, I got the vapors from that one. Oh my God, that's big. Can I have that? Am I allowed to have that? Ooh, that feels big. I don't know. No one else in my family has ever had that. I've never done that. I've never seen anybody do that. It's got to be that kind of energy. It's got to be something you don't know if you can do it. Otherwise, it won't excite you. Do you get that? And here's the thing, until it's at that level, you're not going to be working in a congruence with the spiritual laws. Because the spiritual laws are creational forces. They are high creational forces. They are high vibrational forces. If your vibration is not aligned with a higher creational force, it ain't going to work. I mean, those spiritual laws will still be working, but it'll be working to kind of keep you in this lower threshold of experience that's already old hat to you. Does that make sense? I run into feeling guilty for not having gratitude for what I have if I'm tuning into my desires. You can feel gratitude or say that you appreciate something. Like for some of us, like just having appreciation for is enough to send the broadcast to the universe that like, yeah, this is good. More of this, please. The universe understands that everything is expanding because itself is expanding, and not expanding in the sense that like, because creation is finished. So this is a difficult concept to explain, but let me see if I can break it down. When we say the universe is expanding, that's because more and more on an individual level, people are opening up the contents of their own consciousness to see more of it. Does that make sense? So when we kind of draw back or reverse engineer that experience and have it come out of the mouths of humans that the universe is expanding. That's what that means. But creation is finished. It's all already here. Okay? It's all already here. So if you can even get into a place of appreciation for that, it's all already here. And I can see or have a sensory experience of, I can feel, taste, touch, hear that something is here. And I'm grateful because that manifested into the world of form so that it could support my life in some way. Like on a real base level, can you get to that? Because that's still recognized as your personal energetic broadcast to the universe that like, this is good, more of this, please. And the universe will abide. So I hope this makes sense. So this is just a snapshot, a smidgen, a microscopic view, an amuse-bouche, if you will, of what you experience in Leading Edge Creator. And it will blow your mind. Maybe some of you are having your minds blown right now. My mind was blown when this information started coming in, and I felt like it was like the floodgates were open, and that's why it took me 2 years pretty much to cultivate and craft this in a way so that it was cohesive and teachable and something that could land with people where they're at. Because that's what I love to do. I love to take nebulous stuff and be like, yeah, it's not that crazy to understand. It's just this, 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 and this. Here's a real world, everyday life example. Because that's great teaching, right? And I swear a lot, which makes it fun. Yes, absolutely. But when I'm stretching, that's what holds me back. Yeah, it can sometimes. But why is it holding you back? And why are you telling yourself that you are being held back? Your words, they got to match. You have to have congruence. The self-talk you have in your own head, you know, the way you speak in your reality, the way you explain your reality, the way you create the limits of your experience has everything to do with your self-talk and your speech and how you're defining your experience. I'm not held back. I'm not held back by anything. Okay? Sentence and answers. I like that. So, if what you desire already exists, okay, understand that when you're working with these spiritual laws, like the law of least action, how do you do that? How do you work with the law of least action? So let's just do a really quick recap. Start simplifying your experience by looking at, these are the preferable things in my life. Do it. This is a great time of year to do a year-long assessment. Look at the things that worked out. Look at the things that you would say did not work out. They're going to be aligned with one or two things. Preferable reality, not so preferable reality. Simplify it. Make it easy. Don't vote on it. Don't judge on it. All you have to do really to assess is say, I don't want more of that. I don't want more of that. And use that as contrast. Well, if I don't want more of that, what would I like in its place? And those preferable experiences, where you've collected those wins, you know, do that. Don't just take this as an interesting conversation or discussion and be like, oh, that was interesting what she said, and then don't do anything with it. Do something with this. Do this assessment and be a collector of wins. Look at the things that worked out this year. And once you start placing more of your attention on that, you start working with the 80-20 rule. Your inner reality is the one that's really creating, because the contents of your own consciousness, that's the primary cause of everything you say you're creating in your life, which is responsible for what you're magnetizing to you that already exists. So we're not manifesting anything. We're not creating anything, really. We're magnetizing to us potentials that already exist based on where our inner reality is residing in terms of its vibration. Okay? So if you're being a collector of wins and you got your mind on your wins and your wins on your mind, that's going to be where your attention goes. And you will find something very interesting when you do that. Things just start showing up. This is why the law of least action says attention minus effort. So you won't have to force and hustle and try to manipulate outcomes that are already manifested. That's really hard to do. You can, do what's called manufactured manifesting that way. A lot of the world is doing that, but you don't have to. You can work with the premise of less is more. You can work in congruence with the spiritual laws. You can work in a beautiful symphony of energy with the spiritual laws, and particularly the law of least action, by keeping your attention on your wins. And I'm not saying be a spiritual bypasser or an emotional bypasser. That's not what I'm talking about here. In fact, I do want you to go through and look at the things that aren't working out, because if you don't have awareness of the things that aren't working out and that they're not preferable to you, how do you know how to use that contrast to create something that's more preferable? So I do absolutely tell my clients to, be aware of the things that aren't working out. Be aware of them, but don't put the bulk of your attention there. We have this amazing ability of neuroplasticity. Neuroscience tells us that we have the ability to reprogram the structure of the brain. We can reroute neural networks that have been fixed for a very, very long time. They are never fixed indefinitely. They change, they morph. There are things that happen where people recover from chronic long-term illnesses because they've done powerful mindfulness practices, because of where their attention was on, because they became so tuned in to solution-based awareness. If it's available for one person, one human, it's available to all of us. But it's got to be also infused with an incredible desire. That thing has to overtake you. It can't be derivative. It can't be someone else's dream. It can't be someone else's desire. It's got to be unique to you, and it's got to overtake you. You have to want to surrender to it completely, because you won't have persistence and determination with it. Because you'll look at your life and say, well, I'm a millionaire. I don't care. I'm going to become a millionaire. I want to be financially free. I want to be a homeowner. I want to send my kids to college. I want to take care of all my family members. I want to do all that. Oh my God, it'd be so amazing. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want it so bad. Every day you wake up and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Every day I'm going to make incremental steps towards that. I'm in that energy, and I'm going to look for the wins. I'm going to look for the threads, the breadcrumbs that are showing up that this is happening. And if you don't have that level of desire, like locked and loaded, what you're going to do is wake up and say that, and it's going to feel like, yeah, I'm going to do that today, but you don't trust it. You don't really have faith in it. And then you're going to go look at your bank account and you're like, bitch, where's that money? And then you will be undone by those outer circumstances. And if you are on the leading edge creation, you don't do that, because you don't put your attention there. You're like, I'm aware. Yeah, I'm aware of that. But that's not me. That's old me. That is evidence of energy that is moving out, if it's anything. And this takes practice. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes true desire that is unique to your energetic signature. It cannot be derivative. It cannot be derivative. It can't come from some secondary source. You can't copycat it. You can't take someone else's template for being and try to apply it onto your own. It just won't fucking work. And you'll be bored, because it doesn't speak to you. It's not speaking to your soul. It's not speaking to the spirit of you. Okay? And your way to work with the law of least action right now is to be a collector of wins. That's the easiest way to do it. Be a collector of wins. Stop quantifying them. Understand that, oh, it's raining again. I was going to go for a walk, but maybe not. I was like, it got really dark. Be a collector of wins. Stop quantifying them. Look at each moment as something that is fresh and new and open, instead of, I'm dragging the 5-minute ago version of me that was feeling shitty about herself into this now moment. You don't need to do that. You don't need to wake up in the morning and drag yesterday's version of you into today. You don't need to do that. No one says that you have to do that. It's just habit. It's just habit. And we make and break habits all the time, don't we? Okay? Make a solid commitment to yourself. I'm going to work with the law of least action. Maybe I'll learn a little bit more about some of the other laws too, and how they inform each other. Law of cause and effect, the law of polarity, the law of gender principle, the law of perpetual transmutation. Energy is always in flux. These are the things that I teach. And if you don't know how to do that yourself, that's what Leading Edge Creator is all about. And it is about creating a reality for yourself that feels unique and inspired and enlivened and energized and speaks to your soul, speaks to your spirit. It is not derivative of anything. I'm not teaching you a formula. I'm not teaching you a process. I'm not teaching you a method, some trademark system, none of that. I'm teaching you how to create something that is unique to you and for no one else. and how to stay true to this and how to build on this. We start small and then we go big. That's why it's a 12-week program. And we build trust with each other as we go. That's also why it's a 12-week program. And because this stuff is comprehensive and it builds over time. That's also why it's a 12-week program. And if you are committed to this and you want to learn this, you are welcome to join us in Leading Edge Creator, and I hope that you do. Does anyone have any questions for me about the law of least action or the program? When you make the future present in your mind right now, you're already working with two powerful laws. You're working with the law of assumption, and you're working with the law of least action. The law of assumption is that I assume that I am this version of me now, that it already exists. And if creation is finished, and you could just be working with the law of thermodynamics, which states creation or energy is neither created nor destroyed. What does that say to you in terms of, kind of equaling what I'm saying in terms of creation is finished? It's all already here. It's just, it changes form, and it does. It's changing form all the time. Just like you would take an energy like lack and say, well, okay, I don't want to experience that anymore. Well, you're not going to get rid of it. It's that you're really transmuting it. The law of perpetual transmutation says that. It tells you so. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. So you're changing the form of lack. What are you changing it to? Okay, prosperity. How do you do that? Well, where's my attention going? What am I focused on? Am I so committed to being focused on my lack? Because guess where your attention is going. Guess where the reticular activating system is getting its marching orders from. The energy of lack. So it's going to show you more evidence of it. Okay? But if you're putting all the feelers out and following the threads of where things are abundant, and again, when we get into abundance and prosperity, we think like the floodgates are open and it's a cash financial windfall and it's massive and that's abundance. Like abundance is so much more than money. That's why when I teach, and I was saying this, Kimberly had a beautiful post the other day that I commented on. It's like, there's so much focus now and emphasis, especially in the coaching world, on leading with the money in terms of prosperity and marketing about prosperity and abundance mindset and whatever, and work with me because I've got, all this money and I'm making $10,000 a minute or whatever it is. I don't ever lead with the money because I think that's lazy, number one. And I also think it's pandering to an audience that is looking for completion in their life in terms of a solitary secondary cause. And I don't teach that. I don't teach that. I think it's pandering. I think it's a little bit lazy because abundance is so much more than money. I mean, money's great. Money is great. Well, it was a great prompt, Kimberly. So thanks for writing that. I love money. I love money. I love to be able to pay for things. I love to be free financially, to not only pay my bills, but then have, money left over at the end of the month instead of month left over at the end of money, which was a way I lived for a very long time. But I think there's so much more to abundance and prosperity. So I'm never going to lead with that. Now, when you are living your highest timeline of prosperity, the money naturally follows. Like that's a foregone conclusion. But when you make money the solitary end result or the outcome or the wish fulfilled, it's not only really hollow and superficial. And again, money's great. But you're looking, it's the energy of what you're looking for from a place of lack. And that never works. Those energetics never line up. If you're looking for more money and more abundance because you're in lack now, those energies do not line up. You have to be in the abundance now. You have to look for ways to appreciate your life. You have to look for ways to express gratitude. You have to be in a place of some level or modicum of abundance now if your hope is to achieve more of it. And so oftentimes when people lead with the money in their marketing or, promos or whatever, you're catching people in their lack. And it feels like a trap, because it kind of is. But I love I love the freedom that money grants me. Absolutely. But I think it's so important to lead from, I want peace. I want equanimity. I want equanimity in the sense that I want to feel peace within and peace without. I want congruence of energy. I want to feel like really good in my own skin. I want to feel freedom. That's time freedom, which you learn how to do also. You learn how to be time rich in Leading Edge Creator. But, being in that place of time freedom, money freedom, what does freedom mean to you? It's so much more than just money. Like feeling good in my own skin and really loving myself, like loving hard on myself, like I've never been able to, that's freedom for me. That's peace. That's peace. And for a lot of women, it's romance. It's wanting to love themselves so much that just naturally spills over to the perfect partner, the perfect soulmate, So I think leading with the money is kind of cheap, a little bit lazy. Sorry. For people who do that. And that's great. If the people that you want to work with, if the money is their primary thing, great. I'm not that coach though. I'm not that mentor. Anyway, so the 80-20 rule, 80% attention, 80% of focus on your inner energy. How do I feel? Am I being kind to myself? Am I being kind to my vision? And 20% action. We've had it the other way. We flipped it around, where it's 80% action, only 20% like mindset and energy. No, I'm telling you, there's an easier way. It's an easier way. And the law of least action is simply one passageway that works together with all the other passageways of the universal spiritual laws to help you understand that it's attention minus effort. More energy than anything. More internal state, paradigm shifting energy than what you do. What you do will just be a secondary kind of natural flow from that way of being. So, thank you to everyone who's joined. I want to say one thing about Leading Edge Creator. This price on this program will keep going up because as I keep adding more and building it out, it's just going to be a bigger investment. That's just how it's going to be. So right now the price is $22.22. There are payment plans available. You will never see it at this price again. The last day to get in on this program is the 2nd of January. There is an option to get in just the self-led version. So we taught this already a couple months back, and that was only an 8-week program, but very, very powerful, very profound. You can get that for $497, but it does not give you access to the next live round starting on January 4th. We'll meet 12 Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, starting January 4th. We'll have replays. We have our own private Facebook group. If you join at the $497 option, it is just the self-led option. But there's something really cool that I've decided to offer, that if you jump on that and you decide at some point on or before the 30th of December that you want to go into the live round, so you loved the 8 weeks of Leading Edge Creator self-led option, and you're like, I want to get in on the live round, I'll take that $497 that you paid and apply it towards the balance of joining the live round. And you can do it over, one payment to get the balance settled, or you can do it over 3 payments. So that's a pretty sweet fucking deal. And, go to the website and read the comments, read the member experiences and the member praise. That's real people talking. That's not me just making shit up. That's real people who are in the program who loved it. And I keep getting, every day I get comments like, oh my God, I can't wait to start again. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. So much has happened since we stopped teaching and I want to get back into it. This is going to be an incredibly powerful way to start your new year. And for those who are looking at my Somatic Eloquence program, this is going to be 2024 is the year of the body. It's the year of the body. What does that mean? Well, the subconscious is the body. The subconscious is a function of the divine feminine because it is about receptivity, is about our impressionable nature, our ability to allow, to receive, to take impressions and allow that to morph or change our reality. And it's about getting back into our body. So many of us on the planet have been out of our body since 2020, when you know what happened. And it's time to get back in the body. So this is going to be a powerful experience of breath work, chanting, and sound fork tuning. And we're going to meet every Monday from January 8th until I think April 22nd. So it's going to be 4 months together, meeting every Monday for these breath, chanting, and tuning fork work, sound bathing, essentially, sessions. We're going to get really into the body. It's going to be so amazing. I've been doing this, and it is absolutely changing my level of feeling grounded, feeling solid in my body, not feeling like an automaton, just kind of walking around robotic-like in my own life. It's incredibly grounding. And when our body is so tuned in and we're present, we become powerful magnetic attractors for what it is that we want to attract, for what it is we want to bring in and magnetize in our lives. So if you join at the full price option of $22.22, you're going to get Somatic Eloquence for free. So you get 4 months of membership, which is $300 and something, $360, I want to say, because it's $88 a month if you join with the membership. So if you join at the full price option for Leading Edge Creator, you will get Somatic Eloquence for free, all 4 months. So it's a $300 and something value. So that's all the news that's fit to print. I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know you have your choice in higher consciousness engineer, so I'm so glad that you tuned in today. Many, many blessings. Bye-bye.